Hi, I'm Christy and I'm here with my friend Weston, and we are going to do a video series on groundwork for beginners. We have some new riding lesson students. We have some students who recently purchased their own horses who don't have experience in groundwork and need some instruction from the ground up. So I thought that we would do a little video series and some in-person training, but I thought the video series might help prepare people for some clinics we do regarding groundwork. So the first one we're doing today is going to just be talking about safety and equipment. So Weston is here today in a rope halter. You can do this in a regular halter, but I do find that the rope halter gives you a little more leverage. The nylon halters or the leather halters, they're nice and wide, and they distribute the pressure over a wide surface area, and so if the horse pulls on you, you're going to feel a lot more pulling than the horse feels. Halter focuses pressure into a smaller area to give you a little bit of a leverage advantage since the horse is a lot bigger and stronger than you. I also have my gloves on today. It's very important to wear gloves. You can get some soft cotton rope that is less likely to rope burn your hands, but most ropes are nylon, and if the horse pulls, they can rope burn your hand. Even in cotton, you can have a lot of potential for a rope burn with cotton if a horse tends to pull. I have a training stick with me. I also like to use flags. You can use a driving whip, you can use a dressage whip. I do find that for a lot of the groundwork, I do like a typical training stick. Lots of clinicians sell them, or you could just find generic ones. They're pretty much, they all work the same. So back to this rope halter. Rope halters are tied, usually, and this one happens to have a little metal on the end to help it from fraying or falling apart. Now, this is all well and good, except if this is flopping around, you can see that this might actually hit my horse in the eye. So once I have the rope halter on, I like to try to tuck this down or twist this around so it stays down and away from my horse's eye and doesn't flop around and be a distraction. Now, one of the things with rope halters, especially this is kind of, it's cute, but you know, it's kind of a nylon, newer material, it's kind of slippery, is you put them on and then sometimes they kind of slip and they stretch out and they need to be tightened back up. So you just push this up here a little bit, make sure this is up into the throat latch area of your horse. Now, is this too high on his nose? It's a little high on his nose. He's a big horse, and so things are a little small on him. He's funny because he's not really a warm blood size, but he's also not a draft size. He's kind of in between. So, you know, regular halters are a little bit on the small side for him. So, you know, yes, I would like this to be a couple inches lower on his nose, but, you know, it's fine for him. And if you get a new rope halter, some of them come not tied super tight, so you can actually adjust the knots to the size that you need and then tighten the knots. So an important thing about tying your rope halter is to tie it the correct way. You can see there's a loop here, and then we have the part that goes over the pole of the horse. Think about the loop is your post, and this part is your wire if you were talking about a fence. You would never tie a horse to the wire of a fence or to the, you know, the rail of a fence because it could be insecure and come off. You always tie to your post. So this loop is your post, and you want it to end up pointing towards the tail of the horse. So you put this through, point it towards the tail of the horse. Then you put it under, back through the eye, or towards the eye. Then you loop it back through itself, around the loop, and pull it snug. So you know it's right if you've tied it around the loop and the tail is still facing backwards. If you've tied it in a way that it's facing forwards, that's incorrect. And when it's incorrect, it can loosen up or over tighten if the horse pulls. This way it doesn't over tighten and it doesn't loosen up. And then I'm just going to twist this around here just to keep that out of the way. Now the rope I have is tied onto this halter, and that is helpful. One thing you don't want is some super big heavy metal clasp here that's going to bang around or hit your horse's face, or that, you know, may break, or something that, you know, doesn't swivel and is going to get twisted up. You can have a clip or whatever. I would say go for something small and lightweight. You know, sometimes you might be jiggling this or whatever, and it's not very comfortable to get hit in the face with metal. I think this rope is probably 6 feet long. Probably an 8 to 10 might be more helpful. This one happens to have come with like a little leather popper on the end. I kind of like that because you will be using your rope sometimes to swing at your horse or to touch your horse. A little itchy this morning. So just a couple of safety things. Don't ever wrap the rope around your body. This is horsemanship 101, but I see more people who should know better coiling their ropes up and carrying their ropes like this. If a horse spooks or bolts or whatever, this is going to tighten up on your hand and you can get stuck. You can lose fingers, you could get drugged by your horse, and then if you're being drugged by your horse, the horse might think you're chasing it if it's in a panic state, and then it's going to panic more. Always hold the rope in the flat of your hand so that if you open your hands, you can let go of the rope. If you need to coil the rope, you fold the rope over and you hold the folds, because again, I can open this up and there are no loops around my hand. So a lot of people also, when you're just leading a horse, you're up here trying to be in control. You actually have a lot less control if you're up close and up and under the horse. It is much safer to give the horse some freedom, to give a little slack, and to teach the horse to be obedient with some slack here. So we will hold the rope about this far away in the hand closest to the horse. I don't care if people lead from the left or the right. If your horse is not used to being led from the right, do all of this from the left first and then retrain them on the right so that you can lead them in both ways. And then the excess of our rope, we will fold over and hold in this hand, not in a loop. And we can fold as many times as we need. Same thing with the lunge line. Fold it over in your hand, and if you need to, you can just let go. It's always a good idea to have a helmet if you want to wear a helmet. It's never a bad idea. I encourage and often require my youth to wear a helmet when we do any kind of groundwork. I know it gets hot out, and I know that as adults we don't always want to wear a helmet all the time, but especially if you have a horse that is a little unpredictable or a little reactive, or you're not sure of, or you're very new at what you're doing, it is always a good idea to wear a helmet. There are a lot of accidents that can happen when you're on the ground. You know, bad accidents don't just happen when you're riding. So also before we start, it's good to ask yourself, how well do I know my horse? How reliable is my horse? If you're new to horses, hopefully you have a horse that's pretty good on the ground, that someone helped you find a horse that's suitable to your experience level. But before you ever start asking the horse to do anything, you need to be sure that the horse is safe to work around. You don't want a horse that's touchy on their flank and then you go to ask it to move and it cow kicks and kicks you in the ribs. So the first thing is, ask yourself, in a safe environment, can I touch my horse all over? Do they have any no-no zones? You got to work on the no-no zones. So rub your horse. Are they okay with their ears? Can you rub down their body? Can you pick up all of their legs? So go over the horse and be very careful when you get to areas like the flank. A good piece of advice is when you are going to look under the horse or touch anywhere in this area, I always keep my head towards the horse's head. I know some people teach some different things, like when you're going to get the girth to be facing the other way. My cautionary tale is this horse, who I've raised since a baby, who wouldn't hurt a fly on purpose. Well, maybe a fly. He is the nicest horse. He would not ever injure me on purpose. He was distracted, kind of like he is now. So you could see his ears were that way. He was not paying attention to me. He was paying attention to something out there. He had an area on his belly where some gnats were trying to bite his belly, and I was going to put some swat down there. I was facing the other way. I peeked underneath. He didn't know it was me. He was looking at something else. And as an automatic reaction, he went to kick at what he thought were flies because I was tickling his belly. He kicked me in the face, broke my nose, busted my lip, and I fell backwards and hit the cross ties, the metal of the cross ties, and got a concussion. So again, helmet would have helped me out in that situation because yes, my lip healed and my nose healed, but honestly, the bang to the head bothered me for longer than my nose or my lip. So I try to teach the kids, when you go for the girth or you're doing anything under the horse, point your head towards their head, point your butt towards their butt, and then you can reach under, you can look under. The only thing about this is if you're going back here to tickle like the flank area to make sure your horse is okay here by the flank, I mean, if they cow kick out to the side, they could get you in the knee. You could do that one a little more like this, but keep your head up. Don't ever, if you're going to put your head down, point this way, because then you're asking for a kick in the head if anything should go wrong. If when you go over your horse you find any areas that the horse does not like, that's a time to fix that before you move on. Now, if the horse is aggressive or dangerous when you touch an area, you need to make sure you have enough experience to deal with that. If you don't, get some help. You don't want to put yourself in a dangerous situation if you're not very experienced, especially because you're not going to be as good at reading the horse's body language or anticipating what might happen. But if it's just a ticklish area, if it's an area they're agitated with, you know, but they're not being dangerous or aggressive, a really easy thing to do, say my horse didn't want to be touched on his flank. So pet near the area, go to the area, retreat. Pet near the area, go to the area and retreat. Okay? And it's the same thing with head shy horses. Can you back up a minute, Weston? A lot of horses don't really like their ears being messed with because people have done not very nice things to their ears, and or it's just a sensitive area and the horses haven't been taught that they should allow people to handle their ears. So same thing, you can rub, reach up, touch. You could do it from the, he likes it. He wants me to get the flies off his face. Same thing from the front, especially if they like to be rubbed here, and then just rub your hand over the ear or rub your hand below the ear, and just, you know, get there, retreat, until they realize, oh, no one's gonna hurt me, it's not that big of a deal, and they become desensitized to it. And actually that will come along quicker than you think it will. And if they're especially sensitive, you know, I have all kinds of feelings on treat training. If your horse is not a cookie monster and isn't horrible about taking treats, if it's an area they really don't like, approach retreat, shove a cookie in their mouth. You know, make it a happy experience however you can for the horse, so the horse doesn't feel like you're just some tyrant forcing yourself on them and forcing them to just be this compliant robot. The horse wants to feel like it's part of what's going on too. If the horse is really funny about you approaching and retreating a certain area, like let's go back to, say, he's very sensitive around the flank area, or the mare is sensitive because they don't like their udder area touched or approached, and that's very common with mares. Let me just grab my stick here. Or you have a horse that you've gotten that's not good at picking up the feet or does something funny when you touch the legs or try to pick up the feet. You can use your stick and you can rub your horse and approach the area and retreat, and rub your horse and approach the area and retreat. And you just kind of keep going, and you just keep pushing the comfort zone a little more, a little more, a little more, till you could get under that belly into that sensitive area and have the horse realize that it's okay. When you're no longer getting a reaction with touching with the stick, then you can go back in with your hand with some grooming tools or whatever. But this stick gives you some length to test the waters and staying out of the kick zone. A mare that I got was really funny about her back feet. I needed to get her good at picking up her feet to get her feet trimmed, and I didn't know what to expect because she was so jumpy. I didn't know if I would get kicked or not when I touched the back feet. So I know that this is out of frame, but you know, I would rub her, make sure she was comfortable with the stick, and then start rubbing down her leg until I could rub all the way down to her hooves. When she was really comfortable with that, then I started working my own way back her body and down her legs and down to her hooves. So you can always use a tool. You can always go as slow as you need to go. There is no rush to get any of this done, except if your horse is dangerous. And again, in that case, you should probably seek some help if your horse is dangerous and you don't have experience dealing with horses that might be dangerous. But you don't have to rush through this process in any length of time. You don't have to move faster than you or your horse is comfortable. And your safety and the horse's safety comes first. So don't think you're some kind of cowboy and get into this and start to do some things that you don't know what you're doing. Think about your safety, think about the horse's safety, because if either one of you gets hurt, it's going to set you back way farther than if you just taken your time to begin with. Probably my last piece of safety advice when you're doing this is work in a fairly confined space, or at least an enclosed area, because if you get yourself in trouble and you find yourself in a situation that you don't know how to get yourself out of, you can just let go. You can let go. You don't have to worry about your horse running off and causing problems for other people. You don't have to worry about your horse running off and getting hurt. And you don't have to have that feeling like I must hold on so my horse doesn't get away. Things are going really bad and things are getting dangerous. You can let go and step out of that situation. The only thing that is going to happen with your horse, if your rope is too long and gets wrapped around their legs, they might trip, they might get hung up or something. But you know, a rope this size, he could take off around this arena dragging it, and it shouldn't cause any problems. The only problem it might cause is if it got hung up on one of these jump standards for some reason as he ran past. But this can dangle, it's soft, it can go between his legs, he can run over it. If he steps on it, yeah, he's gonna get, you know, a big pull in the nose while that foot is on the ground, but there is not a huge giant risk to him running around dragging this rope around. Now the longer the rope gets, the more dangerous it gets for him. But again, closed area, if you get yourself in trouble, let go of that rope, take yourself out of the situation. If the horse gets wound up and is getting dangerous and is escalating, get yourself out of that situation, stand back and let the horse de-escalate. The more that you're panicking and jumping into a situation where a horse is panicking, the more that horse is going to panic. You can only help the horse if you have the knowledge and the skills and the quiet mindset to try to help them out. But if your heart's racing and you're upset, it's only going to make the horse more upset. So I hope that was some good information on safety, and I hope you enjoy our journey through our Groundwork 101 for beginners. And I'll be using a variety of horses. I'm probably going to use Weston to demonstrate a lot of the stuff because he knows it, but then I'll use some horses that don't know it so you can see how different horses react. Some young horses, some horses with trauma, some horses with good training, bad training, because I'm pretty sure whatever horse, ooh, that was a big tarantula hawk. It was like that big. I'm sure whatever horse you have has a story of its own and comes with its own baggage, the good, bad, and the ugly. So Thanks for joining us on this journey, and post below if you have anything specific that you want to address along the way, or if you have any questions.